Hello,
I'm
David.
ready. Yes.
Hello, nice to meet you, David.
Nice to meet you. Hello, Yeji.
Our honored guest is David Merten, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes.
Perfect.
It comes from Germany, where I'm from. So David Merten or David. Yes, of course.
Yes, and my name is Jiří Borš. Welcome to our podcast today, videocast rather. And I send warm regards from Plzeň. This is the town in the Czech Republic. I guess the third biggest, but I'm not sure. What about you, David? Where are you now sitting?
I'm sitting in this small city called Uvali, which is very close to Prague. Very easy to get to the city, about half an hour away from Prague, to the eastern part of the city.
Perfect. Thank you. So what I did before this video, I compiled some information about your professional. What do you do professionally? What is your work? What are your projects? Everything I wrote down. But if you were to say with your own words and share with us, what do you do actually, David?
That's a good question. I do a few things. Besides being father and spending time with my little small kids and my wife, I also, I'm a fresh owner of a house since a year. So there's some time I spend on that. But of course, from a professional perspective, I'm involved in a few projects. I'm a founder and a CEO of the Night Watchman of Prague, which is an organization, a tour operator that offers unique tours in the old town of the city of Prague, which is a time travel back to the 17th and 18th century. So we always keep traditions alive. I started doing that alone about 8 years ago, and by now I have a team who's doing that together with me in more languages. Besides that, I'm also working as a coach. My background is being a pedagogue and a drama teacher in Germany, and I used to work in systemic therapy with adults for a while, and then I moved to the area of business, into the area of leading teams, so supervising teams and leading teams, which I really enjoyed. And part of that was a lot of coaching in a corporate organization. And after 10 years working there in Prague, I decided to become a freelance coach with an ICF accreditation.
And anything else coming to your mind? Because I know that you are also now leader of the BNI group in the Czech language, right? Is it true?
Yeah, there are a few things that I do meanwhile in order also to grow the business. One is that I also joined the BNI network, the first chapter in the Czech Republic. It's a referral marketing organization that helps to grow the business through givers gain, to support each other. I also have the chance to be there a president for the first chapter. That means I support the organization by facilitating the weekly events, welcoming the new visitors, welcoming the new members. But I'm not alone. There's a whole leadership team that works with me, and it's a very interesting journey so far. Besides that, I'm also a president, which is a little bit more hands-on, building a structure for climate executive coaching, which is based in San Diego in the US. But we establish a global team of accredited coaches to support companies who work on their climate goals, to achieve or to accelerate their results through science-based and solution-focused coaching. So those are the two roles I have. Meanwhile, I work on my freelance activities, which is supporting those two organizations.
I would like to go a little bit deeper into the Watchman, Night Watchman, because I saw, unfortunately, not. I know that you do it online and you do it, of course, I would say offline. But what you mean is like a real life personal tours. I didn't have yet chance to do it, but I saw the online project which you shoot in the Prague during the COVID, and there were empty streets completely. Can you tell me more about that, please? A little bit more, because I found it very interesting.
Yeah, about 10%, if I understood correctly, of people living in Prague live from tourism. I belong to those, like partially, not only the coaching, but also the tours. And the tours were running very well for about 6 years until the pandemic hit us as hard as all the other businesses in the tourism sector, since there was simply no one traveling anymore, as you remember. And we lost everything from one day to the other. It was a very successful year, 2019, with a great forecast. We decided to also increase the team, moving from 4 people up to 7 people, and also to work more with corporates, doing team building editions and team building versions. Of course, that all was put on hold. directly in March 2020, but we have moved the things very quickly online. So the Night Watchman has nothing to do with technology. I mean, we have a real lantern walking with a halberd around in the city and representing the 17th century. So it was quite a stretch for us to think about what we can do. We had an idea, or I had the idea, to have an online edition of our tour already 4 years ago, or by now 5 years ago, for those people who can't travel, for anyone who has any barriers, who are sick, who are older, who do not feel comfortable traveling so far to Europe, for example. But we could not find any cooperation partner. And of course, that changed with the start of COVID. So in that sense, we were a bit more ready than maybe others. So we moved it online. We have shot a movie from the point of view as a tourist walking behind the guide, which was me in that time in my normal outfit. The second product of our tour, which is the Plague Doctor of Prague. And we walked through the empty, deserted streets with a permission by the city and the police that allowed us to shoot a movie despite the curfew. So we met only 3 people in the whole city. Now, if you walk now through the city, you might see a few more in the Christmas season. So it was quite a strange situation. And that we offered through different providers and platforms. There were just a very few who were keen and who were brave enough to try that. And that was quite successful. So we were quite lucky. There's a very interesting story. We did the online events. Meanwhile, it works the way that we sit at home. We show this pre-recorded video without any narration, without any recorded audio, but we comment everything live we see, which allows us to stay engaged with the whole audience, to answer any questions they might have, and to leverage on all the Zoom technology we have, being able to make even breakout sessions afterwards to discuss, but also having poll questions as riddles, so different ways to engage. And during that time, we had also open events. Now, the way how it looked like for me, I was living in a very small flat in that time, still in Holešovice. We were waiting for our house, and I was doing events day in and out and in the night times for the American audience. It was a bit crazy. My wife, Lucy, with a noise cancellation headphones to listen all over the same stories again. And we had in that time 1 small baby. So it was a bit of a challenge in the night. So kind of a fun part of fun fact. I did some events for big companies like Google with a virtual background behind me in our bathroom, so next to the toilet. So luckily we had already the function of virtual backgrounds in that time. So that's what I did there. And that was quite successful, the online events. And luckily we had one person, his name was David Polk, who joined. I did not know who that is. And it was a person who wanted to write an article about the tour. And we did a bit of a research and we decided, yes, of course he can do that, because he was working for the New York Times, or he was writing the article for the New York Times. And of course, since that time, it was kind of a boom, and we were quite lucky to be then also printed in the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. Also Forbes did an interview with us from the US. So it was quite a bit crazy. And of course, we established a bigger team who were doing online tours from the comfort of their home, respecting the quarantine and curfews, and still bringing happiness and joy into the private rooms of people. Meanwhile, they could not go out.
Yes,
so that's a bit the story. And the interesting thing is that we moved now to more corporates, where we do the online events still for the big companies. Since we had a bit of a monopoly and as a pole position when it started, we have by now a proof of concept. We can see that thousands of 5-star reviews look like that it works very well, and that we have some expertise there. And of course, that's very nice, because it can keep us still above the water when we have a low season of tourists coming to Prague.
I was very pleasantly surprised with the price as well, very reasonable price. So thank you for an update about Watchman. My second question is about your coaching, because you mentioned the coaching profession. What things are you proud of or even grateful for to have achieved in this profession in the past? Can you share with us a couple of things which really went well and you are really happy that you managed them?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I would not be successful as a coach if I would not have had great coaches and mentors myself to reflect a bit on my journey. I worked for these 10 years in leadership positions, And I think what I practiced really there, to step back from my own ego, to practice humility, to listen more to feedback, asking for that, and to learn also from my failures. So that was something I did not always do a great job as a leader. And I could see that there are some things that are within my control to change and some things beyond my control. So helping with professional help, helping me to focus on what is purely within my control, stretching a bit my comfortable zone, and to go through a transformation myself before I request it from others was quite important. For that, I had a very good school called Ericsson International, which is a professional coaching school, also here located in Prague. And they helped me by going through the training to also identify what is truly important for me. And I decided to stay longer in the organization than I initially wanted, to be honest, because I could see that I could learn a lot there. And it was also helping me to find ways to improve my skills as a leader and to support people to thrive and to get to their fullest potential. And that is something that was something I truly enjoyed. So I really enjoyed that part. So I think that is something I'm proud of. Also, the fact that I do not give up. I like to just try it. And I love to work also with neuroscience. There's a lot of science out there that helps us with a positive attitude and with a positive mindset to be able to achieve much more. But still, to make a reality check with my clients is important. If they are too high on cloud number 9 and they are not coming down. So I'm also like helping them to put things into action. And I think this is what I love to practice. And I learn a lot from my clients myself, to be honest. I'm often inspired by their journey. I'm curious about their stories, and it helps me to stay motivated because every session is very different.
David, I would like to encourage all the people who are listening now, write down under this video any question for David, and he will be glad to answer these questions below this video. Not in the real time, unfortunately, because it's pre-recorded, but David will take time and to answer each one of you any questions. Besides, you can find the links for his business under this video. And David, we are coming to the very interesting word, which is climate. What are the future trends in the climate problematics? Can you share with us a little bit behind the scenes from this issue?
It's a very good question. Thank you. Probably there's not only one answer to that, but I would say that for me, I think we can see everywhere impact of climate change. When working with my clients who are working or who are establishing companies or who work in established companies working on climate solutions, implementing climate actions, I also see that they are in a very different situation. We see an increase of prices of energies, and people are interested to look for alternative solutions in order to also have not too many kind of holes burning into their pockets. But of course, when I work with clients who are, for example, in Africa or in other countries, there's a direct impact. So therefore, it is quite interesting to learn from them what they do what they do face for challenges and how to support them. I think I see that there's, of course, impacts also here in society, but also there's a change of thinking, a thought-provoking process, I would say, that is also coming through media and that is coming through great initiatives and great projects. I think not everything is great there. There's a lot of companies who also do greenwashing. They just want to look nice. And part of our work as climate executive coaches is also to focus on those who truly want to change or to make an impact. And that is, of course, something we need to assess a bit before we even start. So we do not offer our services for everyone. It also needs to be some robust kind of goals. And if they do not have certain goals, we can help them to establish those. But climate is a very broad section. It can be companies who work in projects to support sustainability, to implement actions into their organization. Establishing cultural change networks can be one of our activities we do. We can also help individual people how to transport the messages to their team and how to make it workable. Often it's a big elephant in the room and people need to bring it down on the ground to see what does that mean? What can we do today? And there are a lot of things that we can do today, besides just taking my bike instead of my car when I go for the shopping, or I love to go to Šuplik, just to mention them here shortly, because that's a small shop here in Uvali where they sell everything without packaging. And overall, it's cheaper. And I do not produce any waste. So there's a lot of different ways how we can do that. I think it's all about making compromises. We all need to make a living. People might have family and they need to also turn sometimes every coin they have. It's not always black and white, but I think there's a lot of things that we can do in order to support to reduce the impact of climate change.
I would like to mention your interesting articles on LinkedIn, which I follow concerning this problematics. Also, I would like to mention names which are part of my previous podcast concerning climate problematics in general, like David Menchuach, Jana Skokan, and Michael Rada. You are in contact with those people already. So for the listeners, please check those podcasts as well, and also approach us for any questions. My last question concerning BNI. I really can recommend this organization because it's great and the contacts are very good based on recommendation. What do you think about why should people join BNI? This is a very difficult question, but David, can you try to address this question briefly?
Yeah. As coach, we call often to stay in a mutual coach position. So I try to be as objective as possible. I would say, first of all, for those people who express any interest, there are free kind of sessions and visitor days where we can join and people can just see how that works. With every product, with everything we join, we should also experience it firsthand before we take a decision. I would say that the BNI network is something quite, even though it is long time established, it's still quite unique. Within business, I have come often across a lot of people who do see if it's from the same area or from the same industry as a competition. And my experience is that if we help each other, there's a very strong community and a very strong networking where we can really bring business to each other. And often people do not see it like this. So a lot of companies who work together, especially in the field of tourism, are purely based on commission fee. Of course, I do not mind getting some coins, but for me, that's not the importance. Central is the customer and the happiness of the customer. And just for the sake of making some money, I would not go to any network such as BNI. But what I can see there is powerful partnerships that are created and formed that are more long-term and strategic. Most of the people there are on their own business owners, so they have a strong interest to make partnership that goes beyond a year or two. They want to kind of build their company that has future, that is sustainable, as we like to say in business also there. So that is something that I can experience there. And also what I think is important is the way how we support. The first meeting was very challenging to understand that it's not about me asking for getting business. It's about what I can do for others. The philosophy of give as gain is something that we do often in the field of trainings and coachings, to give something to the client because we do know it brings something back. But the giver's gain is a big part of the core values of BNI, which is about to support each other beyond any mutual agreements, beyond any expectations that you would get the same. So it's kind of an unconditional way of support you give. And due to that, you increase trust and the loyalty, of course, within the group. It's not made for everyone. It's not for doing just a quick business and to disappear. So I think there needs to be a proper consideration before joining, but definitely it has long-term effect. And that's why I like it. And it's based on supporting each other.
I mustn't forget to ask you about your invitations for your future events. Do you have any event on mind which is coming soon and you would like to invite us to after seeing this video so that people can come together and join you in your journey?
Mm-hmm. Thanks for asking. Indeed, I would say there are multiple things. So first of all, of course, if people would like to experience the city of Prague, not only from the point of a tourist, but also from a point of someone living there who does not know about the old tradition of Ponocny, the people who used to work through the night, ponocní, the night watchman, or to experience a forgotten hero who worked in the times of plague in the last outbreak in the 18th century. That's our plague doctor. They can always approach us and let us know. We do that also for companies. So that's a way to experience it. And I'm happy to do it myself. Sometimes I get requests if I can do it. So happy to do it myself. That's about the tours. What I can also say is if you would like to see a bit how we work as coaches and what we do for our clients of executive coaching, climate executive coaching, there's also a way to join our webinars. So for those who are interested, you can join, you can let us know, because we create webinars. We do have probably none happening until the end of this year anymore, because it's now starting the Christmas season and vacation times. But please let us know. Also, we are always looking for new coaches who would support, who would be part of that journey. And of course, for companies who are interested to get to know more about our coaching services. That is for the climate executive coaching, but also individually, if they want to have some leadership coaching from me only, or the company that's behind me for the climate executive coaching, they can of course let me know. We do always provide a free session where we take like notes, where we kind of give advice, where we also listen, what are the pain points, and then we can see if there's something that can come out of that.
Anything else on your mind?
Maybe a short advice. I like to have my own philosophy I follow, and I hope everyone has something that guides everyone also in times of crisis. Something that has been proven to me very well is the quote that I like to follow, to refuse the useless, to absorb the useful, and to add what is specifically your own. We all have resources. It's a question of unlocking those and to make it your own and your own signature, whatever we do. But there's also the important need in terms of refusing what is useless, to put on sometimes the distraction blinders that allows us to focus on what is in front of us, to stay focused and to focus on that what is within our influence, and to refuse the useless. So that is very important, to have the distraction blindness, and then to absorb what is useful. I like to do the concept of learning and teaching once per day. I got that from my previous manager I had 3 years ago in the corporate organization. Learn one, teach one is something that I practice daily in order to give something new to someone who doesn't know it and to learn something new. And I think with that, we can get quite far in life. So those two things, refuse the useless, absorb the useful, and add what is specifically your own. And the second one is that you learn one and you teach one once per day.
David Merten, thank you.
Thank you, Jiří, for the time.
I would stop this video usually after these words, this takeaway message, but I will leave it open a little bit more for behind the scenes. Thank you for a nice, efficient and relaxed and interesting podcast. I really enjoyed it. By the way, you mentioned that you are building the house and that you are having a family, great family. Besides that, do you have any time for hobbies or not? Small projects, family, house. What is there time for hobbies?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think what is when I try to help people to identify what are their values and to make their passion part of their job, I think this is something I do. I think one of my hobbies is doing the tours myself, because I purely enjoy that, to meet people from all over the countries, all over the place. So I still love to have hands-on and to do it. So I made my hobby my work. So, and that's why I have a lot of passion for that, and I don't feel easily overworked, because it's just, I purely enjoy that. So that's what I do. But of course, I also love to spend the quality time with my family. I truly enjoy listening or watching also our two little boys. One is 3.5 years old. And it's very interesting. Also, the little one, the smallest one, is just not even a year old. He's just 10 months old. So that's quite busy here in our house, but it's very nice, because I learn a lot, especially how to be present in the moment, to really like enjoy the life in that moment, not to live in the future, not to live in the past. So that is what I learned there. In terms of other hobbies, I love to do some sports. And that is something where I'm quite flexible. I do some martial arts. I go for some kickboxing once per week. I do some practices and exercise on my own. I have in Uvali a very beautiful forest. And whenever I need to clear my head, I go for a run over there, because the fresh air and being with the nature is something that I purely enjoy. And then I come back with hundreds of ideas. So when I have a whiteboard over here in the office and I work on a concept, it takes me ages. But if I go to run in a forest for just half an hour, I come back and I'm full of ideas after that.
Nice, 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 very nice. Finally, do you have any question for me, David?
Yes. So what would you say was the most interesting podcast for you so far, and why?
I cannot say, because all the people are interesting. I know this sounds like a cliche, but for me, every podcast is interesting because people are sharing their lives, and it's not about best or worst. It's about listening to ideas, making new friendships, making new cooperations. And this is what I strive for in my podcast, to let people know that other people exist and make new relationships. Yeah, sorry that I didn't answer better.
And why do you do this? Why is that important for you?
Yes, of course, because I like meeting people. Since I was a small boy, I liked meeting people, and during my youth as well. And I traveled a lot, and I met many people from the whole world. And this is what I like. And we had a project with my sister, which was called Memo Point. It's still going. And it was going to talk with the older people about their life, sharing their life story and recording it. And then we digressed, we turned away a little bit from this project, and we made it available for everybody to talk about their life story. So for me, the age is not important. I invite everybody to come to my podcast and share.
Thanks for sharing. All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.